Hello. How are you guys? I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to find out that I'm live since I didn't announce this one for more than like a minute and a half. Maybe I will play a song on my phone for you. I purposely made this live not monetized because I wanted to play a song for you. And let's see, I think this is Jason Emraz, if that's how you say his name. Let's see. Is it Jason Emraz? Or is it somebody else? Let me see. Have you guys heard of Jason Emraz? He's amazing. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. How do I know? I guess I should have done this with advance warning. Anna Bees, did you get your package yet? Lovely to see you. No, haven't heard of him. You've never heard of Jason Emraz? Oh my goodness. So I don't know. I think that this is what I think it is, but let's see. One sec. How are you today, my dear? Just something. It's beauty. Nope, that's not it. Sherry, hello. I'm just giving everybody a few minutes. Haven't been to the P.O. box yet. I'm okay. How are you? I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. So, yeah, I've been kind of overwhelmed with stuff, especially, I've been trying to moderate my YouTube consumption because of all the political stuff. And I feel like all that Gene Hackman story is utter BS. So I wanted to talk about that. Granny Annie, hello. How are you, my dear? And yeah, I think I really wanted to stay focused on the Gene Hackman and also just like the Department of Education getting closed down and freedom of speech. So let me see. Is it Jack Johnson? Dang it. I don't have that app. Do you know Jack Johnson? Jack Johnson, Jason Emraz. There's another one. But let me just play a Jason Emraz song that is amazing. It's been a long time since I've listened to it. So it's like the A to Z song or the I'm Yours. Let's do the I'm Yours. Sorry for all the quietness. Okay, you'll love this song. Are you ready? If you've never heard of Jason Mraz, wow. And maybe you have and you just don't realize it.
Well, you done me and you bet I felt it. I tried to beat you, but you're so hot that I melted. I fell right through the cracks. Now I'm trying to get back before the COULDN.
Thanks, Anna Bees. I see your correction there.
Nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. I reckon it's again my turn to win some or learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours.
You do know the song.
Well, open up your mind and
so this is Jason Mraz.
Open up your plans and damn your
and then there's Jack Johnson. And there's a third guy that I grouped together. They're amazing.
The music of the moment, people dance and sing. We're just one big family, and it's our God-forsaken right to be loved, love, 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 love. So I won't hesitate no more.
Music therapy is the bomb.
Cannot wait. I'm sure there's no need to.
It's very healing.
Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. Do you want to go?
I don't think it broke any more than it already was. Annoying. Gravity. I try to make friends with gravity. That's why I do my yoga.
Bending over backwards just to try to see it clearer, but my breath fogged up the glass, and so I drew a new face and I laughed. I guess what I've been saying is there ain't no better reason to rid yourself of vanities and just go with the seasons. It's what we aim to do. Our name is our virtue, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn, you're free. I look into your heart and you'll find that the sky is yours. So please don't, please don't, please don't. There's no need here to complicate, 'cause our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours.
Lovely song. One of my favorites. So let's see what happens when I go to trying to figure out who the third guy is that I clumped together with Jack Johnson, Jason Mraz, and it's slipping my mind. I might be able to find it with these keywords, you and me. Maybe not. Let's see. And I'll stop with this in a minute. Just good to get a vibe going. I've just been feeling very stressed. My yoga has been my savior. And I can't stop thinking about the Gene Hackman case and the dog in the crate. I think that dog is key, as in so many of our true crime cases, right? Okay, I'm gonna have to come up with that one later. But if you guys don't know Jack Johnson, you probably do. A lot of times it's like we know these songs, we just don't know the names of them or the artists, especially in this day and age with things just being so different than they've ever been as far as music goes. This is Curious George.
Right now at AT&T, trade in.
But like I said, I turned monetization off, so it should be fine that I play whatever songs I want. Come on. And I'll look at your comments in one sec. Curious George. One hit wonders? No, they're not. Jack Johnson is amazing. You probably know some of his songs. Her pills were not OD pills. Did Gene try to help deceased wife take her meds? It's possible. I think we need to keep our minds open to anything is possible with that case. Even what they say is possible. This world keeps spinning with each new day. I can feel. That's not the Jack Johnson song that I meant to play. I might just need to give up on this, huh? It's not working out. That girl from the University of Pittsburgh that went missing in Dominican Republic, I think. That is so horrible. That's like Natalie Holloway all over again, isn't it? Oh, David Gray. That's the other author. Okay, I got it. David Gray. That's the other artist, other musician. Are you guys familiar with David Gray? He's been around for a while. Again, you probably know this song. Are you ready? You'll love it. Whether you know it or not, you'll love it.
Hello, handsome.
But not the ad. Hello, handsome. Can stop with the stupid ads. When am I going to get my upgrade? Probably by the end of the month. Are you ready? Here we go. One time I played a song I was dancing to and singing on Facebook, and it almost didn't let it be posted. Hackman case is very yeah. Friday night, I'm going nowhere. All the lights are changing, green to red. Tell me if you guys know the song. If you know it, put a 1 in chat. If you don't know it, put a 2. Looking back through time, you know it's clear that I've been blind, I've been a fool. To open up my heart to all that jealousy, that bitterness, that ridicule. And if you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. The love that I was giving you was never in doubt. Let go your heart, let go your head, and feel it now. Annie's heard it. Sherry hasn't.
Moving through the crowds, I'm pushing chemicals and rushing in my bloodstream.
It's kind of about drugs.
Only wish that you were here, you know I'm seeing it so clear. I've been afraid
Addiction.
to show you how I really feel. Admit to some of those bad mistakes
And love.
well, if you want it, come and get it. Crying out loud. The love that I was giving you was never in doubt. Let go your heart, let go your head, and feel it now. Let go your heart, let go your head, and feel it now. Let go your heart, let go your head.
I'm terrible at knowing the names of songs and artists too. But I do. I make a sincere effort. It's fun. It's fun to figure it out. The kids help a lot. Newer songs and older songs, huh? Okay, lovely, lovely song. And yeah, I would imagine that Shan is very busy with her gardening. And also, she may have had a big storm rolling through there because it just missed us. And we're not that far away, a couple 100 miles maybe. So to address Annie's issue with that one hit wonder, I want to do the song about the sophomore slump. I think that's Jason Mraz. Let's see. I think it's called Wordsmith, isn't it? No, maybe not. It's called Wordplay. Okay, you guys know this song. This is the bomb. Which one should I play? It starts out kind of lame, but it gets better. Trust me.
I've been all around the world, I've been a new sensation, but it doesn't really matter in this generation. The sophomore slump is an uphill battle, and someone said that in my scene, cause they need a new song, like a new religion, music for the television. I can't do the long division, someone do the math, but the record label puts me on the shelf up in the freezer. Gotta find another way to live the life of Asia, so I drop my top, mix and I mingle. Is everybody ready for the single? And it goes,
it's about the sophomore slump after the one hit wonder. All about the wordplay. You've heard it, Annabise? So this is Jason Mraz.
For those who don't remember me, well, let me introduce you to my style. I try to keep it jumble and the lyrics never humble when the music's making people tongue-tied. You want a new song, like a new religion, music for the television. I can do the long division, someone do the math. For the people that me up like I'm a one-hit wonder. Gotta find another way to keep from going under. Pull out the stops, got your attention. I guess it's time again for me to mention the wordplay.
Michael Bublé-ish. I don't really know any Michael Bublé songs that I know of. I'll admit it. He's got a funny name. I've heard of him.
Take a dive into the deep end of my head. Every single word I've said. Yes, I'm closer to the words I say. I'm sticking to the wordplay. The wonderful thing it does because I am the wizard of moves and nouns and la la la's. Yeah, the Mr. A to Z to say I'm all about the word.
I love Eminem. Have you seen that movie, 8 Mile? Sad, but it's good. And yeah, Slim Shady, man. It doesn't get any better than that, huh? So yeah, he got all cut up by the end of that song. So cray cray. There was one more, you guys. One more, trust me. Have you heard of Milky Chance? You will love it, whether you've heard of it or not. And they're a little alternative band from Germany. They made it really big with this song. Are you ready? And again, you've probably heard it. It's called Stolen Dance. Maybe you've heard it and you don't know it. Don't know the name of it. Don't know the name of the band. It's a funny name of a band, Milky Chance. It's amazing. Amazing. It's probably 15 years old by now. How come it won't skip the ad? That's annoying. You guys ever have that happen? I don't know if it's my phone malfunctioning or what. But come on, stupid ad. It's messing with me. Cryptocurrency is taking over. It seems like sometimes that ads can pay more so that you can't skip them even though the button shows up. Took her waterfront house in Florida. Sherry, this lady's son took her estate, best-selling author. It's not your phone. Ads playing, you can't skip them. Well, it has the skip button, so it looks like I can skip it, but yeah, it's not allowing me to. And I've noticed that before. I think that sometimes they just pay more for that. Oh my goodness. It's so hard. The artificial intelligence is taking over. And you know, the phones are listening to us all the time and they're modifying what they're feeding us. So it could just be that it's time to, here we go. Do you know this guy? He's got the wild hair. I call it the sideshow bob hair. No, I think my phone is freezing up. That's okay though. Have you heard this one, you guys? Put a 1 if you have and a 2 if you haven't. You'll know in a minute. I hope I didn't get your mind. Your heart is too strong anyway. We need to fetch back the time they have stolen from us. Stolen Dance, Milky Chance. Yep. Some people think it's called Stoned in Paradise. It's an old song, but kind of new. I think about 15 years-ish. But it kind of sounds like it's from the 60s. It's wild when you get these new songs that sound really old. Like Record Player. Have you guys heard Record Player? All these lovesick songs. We'll be done with our music therapy in a minute. Then we can talk about some hardcore crap. The pain, the suffering. We can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it. Dance on. Do the boogie all night long. Oh, happy St. Patty's Day. Talk about it. I want you. We can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it. Dance on. Do the boogie all night long. Stoned in paradise. Shouldn't talk about it. Shouldn't talk about it. Well, they made the video 11 years ago, or it got posted to YouTube 11 years ago. But I think it was 12 years old when I looked it up a few years ago. But we'll find out. I want you. We can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it. Dance up. You like Elaine on Seinfeld with the dancing. Shouldn't talk about it. I want you. We can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it. Happy St. Patty's Day. Feel the boogie all night long. Stoned in paradise. Shouldn't talk about it. Shouldn't talk about it. Wow, they've got almost 2 million subscribers for their little alternative band channel. That's very cool for them. Yeah. Yeah, the first thing I did when I discovered the song, I looked it up and I thought it was 12 years old back then, and that had to be 3 or 4 years ago. Cuz I don't know, like I might have heard it earlier and not really realized it, but it was definitely somewhere around 5 years ago that I discovered it. And I hadn't heard it when it first came out. It might have been one of those like sleeper songs, you know, that it was recorded and then it took a long time to gain momentum. It could be. So let's talk about the Hackman crap. It hurts my brain. It hurts my heart. And especially with, you know, my interest in justice and truth and domestic violence. And I don't know that there's domestic violence there, but I think that it would be ridiculous to not consider it. Possibly either direction too. You know, sometimes domestic violence is both directions. Anyway, let me do my disclaimer since I'm going to be treading on some fragile territory. Everything I say is simply my opinion. Oh, did you look it up? It's older than 12 years? Okay. Yeah, look it up. I can look it up to see what year it came out. Um, Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation and open up a discussion, learn something. All my videos are made for YouTube and it's an entertainment platform. And it was released in 2012. So it's 13 years. Okay, maybe that's why we both thought 12 years old, because we remembered it being released in 2012. So it's reached #1 in Australia, France, Belgium, and other countries. That's way cool. It's just this little German duo. Reached #1 in Ireland, Switzerland, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary. Additionally, it was the most popular song in Poland in 2014. Wow, that's amazing. I bet they got really rich off of that song, huh? That is so cool. And it's harder these days for musicians to make the money because of Spotify and YouTube and Apple and Pandora's and iHeartRadio and all that. It's really hard. I mean, the whole music industry has always been a sham, with your middle management people taking all the money and then the musicians getting robbed. Ricky Lee Jones, she was a teenager. This is kind of like a Ricky Lee Jones hat. She was a teenager. I think she wrote her first album by the time she was 15, kind of like Fiona Apple. And then I think she was from Washington State. She was from like Lacey, Olympia area. She was a foster kid. She knew she was talented. She took her songs to LA and they tried to offer her like cash on the barrelhead. And she said, no way, I want residuals. And they were like, okay, bye then. And, you know, look who's laughing now, right? Like they missed their chance. I remember it came out the same time Riptide by Vance Joy came out. Is that one that I know? I'll write that down for later. I'm gonna stop with the songs. Vance Joy. Because yeah, like when I discovered HAR this last summer, when my kids introduced me to that band, I didn't realize that I already knew some of their songs. Your hat is like a Ricky Lee Jones hat. Isn't it cute? Yeah, I love Ricky Lee Jones. I didn't discover her probably until I lived in Olympia. And then I heard that she was from that area. And that was such a small, unhip area at the time. I was like, no way is somebody that talented from Olympia. You know, all the musicians were from Seattle. All the, you know, like Jimi Hendrix and Hart. And even Nirvana said that they were from Seattle, but they were living in Olympia when they got famous and called themselves a Seattle band because Olympia was so freaking uncool back then. And Beck was living in Olympia too when he got famous, but he didn't really try to dub himself as a Seattle band, probably because Nirvana already took that. And he was from Southern California and he was just an anomaly anyway. I mean, he was such a young kid and he just sort of deconstructed music and then reconstructed it in a whole new way, all by his big old self, right? Yeah, we had a lot of good music coming out of Olympia, but people were denying that they were from Olympia. You gotta love it. Anyway, so we're talking about the cases. The thing with the Gene Hackman case, okay, we all know the story that the authorities have given about the hantavirus, if I'm saying it right, hantavirus, I think, the mouse poop. It sounds kind of like a variety of pneumonia, what it does to your lungs and how it can be so fatal. It's not always fatal and it can come on really suddenly, but it doesn't always come on really suddenly. But what I have found out is that it is common in that area, in Santa Fe, in New Mexico, in that area, because a lot of us have never heard of it. But I think people from there, it's something that they think about. And because it can become like airborne just from dried rodent pee. And then if the dust gets kicked up, and you're in the desert, so that dust could get kicked up by the wind. That's crazy to think about, huh? So he probably had Alzheimer's. It sounds definitively like he did, but one of the phrases that was, I think, grossly misinterpreted by the public is that one of the authorities said it's possible that he didn't realize she was deceased for an entire week before he then succumbed to passing away as well. All it said was it's possible. It didn't say that it is true. And I don't know that we'll ever know, but there's so many, I've like scoured the internet trying to find the information about it. And most of what I find is artificial intelligence. And so I think it's crap. And I think that the handyman is very suspicious. His story has changed many times. That's suspicious. He says he wants to write a book and really tell the whole truth. That's suspicious. It's like, well, what did you leave out? What have you left out? I believe that the authorities said that there was no surveillance system in the house, but that there was a surveillance system, but it had been shut down for the past 3 weeks, roughly, when they discovered their remains. So the dog being in the crate to me is one of the most significant clues. My thought is that people are going to put a dog in a crate if they're maybe doing something to the owner. So it sounds like it was her dog, that it was Betsy's baby, and 12 years old, and had just been to the vet maybe on the 9th. But I mean, unless it had like a major surgery, which I don't know what the vet procedure was, I don't think you're going to keep your dog in a crate. I don't know. I mean, I have dogs and I've crated them, and yeah, they do sometimes really like their crates. Their crates can be like their little happy place, their safety spot. But I'm thinking somebody might have put the dog in the crate because they were harming Betsy and they didn't want the dog to attack. The other 2 dogs were the German Shepherds that were outside. And I even found somewhere where it said the German Shepherds were at a friend's house. That's only one place that I saw that, but it's really annoying when you get all this contradictory information. So I wanted to talk about it with you guys because nobody's talking about the stuff that I discovered simply by Googling Gene Hackman bad temper, I think was all I Googled. And then all this information came up about him getting in the fist fight with his basketball coach when he was in high school and dropping out of school at 16 because of that. And the things that Bill Murray said about him in his defense, that he was defending, like, no, he doesn't have a bad temper, but I can see why he'd want to throttle people. And then sometimes I'm surprised why he doesn't just throw them off of buildings when, he's such a great actor and they're not, and he's nailing the part and they're having to redo it 50 times because the other person keeps missing. And then he kind of just doesn't do his best in one. And then that's when the other person nails it. So that's when Bill Murray said he's surprised he doesn't then just throw them off the building after already wanting to throttle everybody all the time because nobody else is as good as him. I thought that was really odd things to say about somebody that you're trying to defend them having a bad temper. The other thing that nobody talks about, and I don't want to throw any shade at anybody. I just want to get to the truth. The things that none of us have mentioned, I don't think I've even thought about this until this morning, is alcohol consumption. Did Betsy or Gene have an issue with alcohol? We've heard that they were hermits or reclusive, stayed at home a lot. A lot of times that can be indicative of an alcohol problem. Also, people that isolate, people that are abusive towards their partner want to isolate their partner. They don't want people to know what's going on with the person. They don't want the person to have a support network. And that abuse could go either way. I mean, we know that she was 30 years younger than Gene. We know that he was 95. The handyman, his first name is Jesse. He worked for them for 16 years. He says that he just saw Gene driving by himself in a car 12 weeks before he passed away, I think. And there's even a photograph of Gene Hackman driving himself in a car, I think, a year ago. So he would have been 94. And that's pretty wild if he had advanced Alzheimer's. And then the thing with Betsy running her errands on the 11th, and I know there was all this news about how a doctor stepped forward and said that they had verbal contact with her on the 12th, so that carried her date of passing from the 11th, is what they thought it was. Now they're thinking it was later on the 12th after the phone call with the physician. So she ran errands on the 11th, and at least one cashier had a conversation with her. And where was Gene when she was running errands? Like, if he was so far gone with his Alzheimer's, he would not have been able to be home alone. He wouldn't have even been able to be like out in the car waiting for her while she was running errands, going inside the stores and stuff. I mean, if somebody's really advanced Alzheimer's, they need constant care. So I just think there's a lot more to the story, and that we're not getting the whole story. We know that there's like an $84 million estate, and that the kids are kind of shifty. Betsy would have been inheriting all of it, except that she passed away first. Maybe it's a coincidence, right? Maybe she passed away. Yeah, the pills that were around her, I saw, I think it was Granny Annie, that put the comment up about those pills. I think they were thyroid medication, which I doubt you could overdose on thyroid medication. I don't know, but it's entirely possible that she was in the bathroom and she was trying to take her thyroid medication and she passed out, and that was that. It's entirely possible. And then her Alzheimer's husband was bumbling around the house for a week before he then passed away. But she passed away in the bathroom. And one of the reports, because all the reports seem like they're different, the one that I like to go to is like the first one that I know of. That's when the handyman, Jesse, told law enforcement what happened with him and the guy, was his name Rob or something like that, the guy that was like the security guy. So they lived in a neighborhood with like a security guard, I think, outside of the neighborhood. And then when Jesse was going over to check on them, the security guy went with him. And then Jesse recounts the story that he saw Betsy from outside of the house. And it sounds like it definitely sounds like she was in the bathroom on the floor, and he could see her. He could see that she was mummifying. He could see that it was definitely time was up. But it almost sounded like that there was a door from the bathroom to the outside, but he said that he didn't go in. But then, like, he also said it was like the worst day of his life, and this has been so hard on him. And, it's always weird when people make it about themselves. To me, that's kind of a red flag. And then he said that the other guy went in and discovered Gene, and it wasn't until they discovered Gene that they then called 911. But then all the subsequent reports after that are that they didn't go in. They called 911, and then the first responders are the ones that found Gene. But Gene, we know, was found in a mudroom with his cane nearby, and I think a pair of sunglasses nearby. And that would indicate that he might have been heading outside, like the mudroom would be the entry room. Maybe he had just come back in. Maybe he was heading out. And they're saying that the heart attack is what caused his demise, and that it was confounded by the Alzheimer's. And then they just immediately introduced this idea that, yeah, he was in the house with her being deceased for a week, but maybe he didn't even know she was deceased. And yeah, it is a large house. And they don't really say how far away that mudroom is away from the bathroom where she was. Like, it could be like completely opposite ends of the house. We just don't know. But the fact that the surveillance system sounds like it was turned off or shut down before any of this happened, that's suspicious right there. That's highly suspicious. So I think there's a nephew of Gene Hackman's that might be like the primary person handling the estate right now. We know he has the 3 biological kids. We know Betsy, didn't have kids, didn't have siblings. And it sounds like her parents might have already passed away. I'm not sure about that. But obviously, Gene Hackman's parents, since he's 95, they've passed away. And then I don't know if his sibling that the nephew is the child of, I don't know if his siblings are around. But, they would go to next of kin in the event that the kids are written out of the will. And we don't really know. There's so much misinformation. But trying to wrap my mind around the whole picture, I can't imagine that nobody reported anything for as long as the time elapsed for. Primarily, my mind goes to that surveillance system question and the postal carrier, because the postal carriers in any community are usually like your first line of fire to discover when something unfortunate has happened to somebody. And if they had like a mailbox, a wall of mailboxes in one area of that gated community, or if they had mailboxes in front of each house, I'm not sure. But either way, it's been reported that the mail carrier said that the mail was piling up. And typically, a mail carrier, when they notice that, they call law enforcement to do a welfare check. It's very common. So I'm just really curious why things are so muddy. Why the authorities looked so nervous when they were delivering their presser and making these definitive statements about what caused the demise of the Hackmans, when a couple of days before that they had said it's going to take weeks to be sure. You have to wait weeks until all the labs come back and everything. And then a couple of days later, they're like, oh, here, we've got it. And it was just too fast. And when they come up with that type of information really quickly, which they can make a good educated guess. They phrase it that this is the preliminary findings, that we won't know definitively until the full autopsy comes in. So it's just so sketchy. My thoughts are that the handyman and the kids, Gene's kids, that they all knew that Betsy was going to inherit the entire $84 million estate when Gene passed away, which at 95, that's on the horizon. You've got to be ready for that. Even if he does live to be over 100, that's not very long. He was definitely in his sunset years, as they call it. And she was only 65, and people get really nasty when it comes to money like that. People are like vultures. And what's so heartbreaking to me, really, in the end, if you've got an $80 to $85 million estate, aren't the lawyers going to make like 40,000 of that? They're going to pocket about half. And the more people fight over who's entitled to it, the more the lawyers get. And then the heirs will get even less. So I just don't know. It's a very, very sad situation, and I don't like talking about people negatively when they're newly deceased, but I also don't like the cover up. And it seems to me that there's a good possibility that law enforcement said what they said to help cover it up because they might be getting paid off too. What's a cool million when you're inheriting 85 million? To just say, well, if you just say it was all natural causes, because there's only like 5 possibilities on your death certificate. You've got like natural, accidental, homicide, self-inflicted, and undetermined. I think those are the 5. And if you say natural or self-inflicted, then everybody's off the hook. Then if you say accidental, people are kind of off the hook too. But if you say undetermined or you say homicide, then anybody can hang. So, they said natural for both of them really quickly. And with the diagnoses that they give, yeah, natural would be accurate, but how do they know that it wasn't accidental? And how do they know that even the hantavirus wasn't intentionally exposed to Betsy by another party? But the way she passed away reminds me a lot of the way Brittany Murphy passed away, the way Brittany Murphy's husband passed away a year after her, and even the way Kim Porter passed away, Sean Combs's wife. So all 4 of those people had these rare, basically pneumonia things going on that they just dropped to their end without warning, without any medical intervention. And really, if you're suffering from anything like that, you probably are going to call the doctor and call 911, and you're probably going to be seen. So, with Kim Porter, that's quite possible, the kind of scenario that I've described with coroners. Coroners get paid off. There's a lot of corrupt coroners, for anybody who doesn't know that. Gene was broke, flat broke. Wait, what? You got to be kidding me. Well, were people taking advantage of his finances? Like, was it like the financial elder abuse? Let's see. Jack and Diane. What did I miss? I missed so much. Okay, Chucky's in love. My cousin was Chucky, and he fell in love with my best friend Jennifer, and they were still together. Jennifer used to sing that song all the time. That's adorable. Yeah, and Danny is her brother. Danny's All-Star Joint. They got a jukebox. It goes joint, joint. So he was still living in Lacey when I was living in Olympia in the late 80s and early 90s. And Jack and Diane in the early 90s. Yep. And that's adorable. And no, it was in the 80s, Annie. Oh, yeah. Jack and Diane was in the 80s too. Because I remember it was before I graduated high school. It's probably 1984. I graduated in 85. I think Gene tried to give deceased wife meds. I don't know. So the thing is that his dad was extremely abusive, and his mother was a raging alcoholic, and his dad left his wife and the kids when Gene's little sibling was 6 weeks old. And then his mom and him and his little sibling all moved in with his grandmother in Illinois. And then he was really tight with one of the neighbors who had the tragedy of a red rum self-unaliving. So I think he was between the ages of 13 and 16 when that happened, because then when he was 16, he got into the fist fight with the basketball coach, dropped out of high school, joined the Marines. That didn't work out. And his mom being a raging alcoholic, his dad abandoning everybody when there's a 6-week-old baby. I don't know. And then, he met Betsy when she was in her early 20s. He was in his early 50s, if that. She's the same age as his two older kids, basically. Like, she's like the year right in between them. If she was 23 when they met, his oldest kid was 24, and then his oldest daughter was 22, and then he had a younger daughter who was about 19. His oldest kid, I think, is his son. So he says that he didn't leave his wife and kids for a younger woman, but his divorce wasn't finalized until 1986. And then he married Betsy in 1991. And they'd already been living together for at least 7 years at that point in time. So it sounds like he did leave his wife and kids for somebody the same age as his kids. So I don't know. I don't know. And that happens quite a bit in real life, and especially Hollywood. So I'm not wanting to throw shade on anyone for that. I'm just trying to get a bigger picture for what happened. And then if they were very controlling of each other, because I know people have pointed at Betsy saying that she was very controlling of him, but maybe he was very controlling of her, being that he was old enough to be her dad, and that he had all these millions of dollars when they got together, and she'd worked part-time at the gym, allegedly. But she had also graduated from California, UCLA. No. The other one, University of Southern California, USC. She graduated from there. And then she was a cheerleader for the professional soccer team of Los Angeles called the Aztecs, I think. And then she was a production assistant for a television game show called Card Sharks. And then they say that they met after that when she was working part-time at the gym that he worked out at. But it would make more sense that they met when they were both in the entertainment industry, right? So let me get caught up real quick. Bodies under the house. What? I don't know anything about that. I know I've seen some of these crazy channels that are all artificial intelligence that I see the thumbnails and I'm just like, I'm not even going to waste my time. I have tapped on a couple of them and then I've just been like, no, this is crap. This is absolute crap. Because some of them will refer to Jean as a she because it's artificial intelligence, and they don't even realize that this Jean is not a she. But they tell this whole story with conviction as if they know what they're talking about. And now it's just BS. And it's so hard right now with all this BS in our news and fake news, and yeah. Handyman writing a book is very strange, isn't it? And why would he say that? Like, that makes him look suspicious. Very, very strange. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There aren't a lot of people talking about it on YouTube, like the true crime channels. Shogun Cinema is talking about it, but I don't watch him. And Perez Hilton is talking about it, and I do watch him sometimes. And there's probably one or two others that are talking about it that I'm not really aware of. Because you guys know I'm watching mostly the political crap right now anyway. I dated a guy named Jack, and my real name is Diane. Oh, how cute. How cute is that? Let me highlight that one. The handyman writing a book is super strange. And he's the one who said he's going to be writing a book. It's probably right about Jean trying to give her meds. It's possible, but it's also possible that they were fighting. It's possible that she was feeling like she needed him to move into a home. Or maybe he wanted to move into a home and she didn't want him to. I mean, who knows? Most people want to stay at home. But that's really hard on the caregiver. And it's just not realistic for one person to take care of someone with advanced Alzheimer's by themselves. That can turn out the way this turned out. I mean, like I said, I'm keeping an open mind that it is possible that the authorities are telling the truth, but it doesn't seem like they are, in my opinion. Let's see if he lives long enough for the book, whomever oft stop him. So, and this is the other thing, you guys, is let's say that the story that he's telling is true, that him and the security guy were at the door and they could see that she was deceased. For all they know, there's hoodlums that broke into the house and they're holding Jean hostage. And if they go in, they could be next, which is how police are going to handle it in a situation like that. They're always going to go in ready for anything. So it doesn't sound right that the security guy is going to be walking around. I mean, I don't know if he's packing. Maybe he's trained in packing. But, yeah, you also don't want to touch anything in case crimes have been committed. You don't want to take that chance of, destroying evidence and making it more difficult for the authorities to figure out what's going on. Yes, Anna, I had dementia patients. It's so sad. Gene Hackman always broke. Why? Took crappy movies for a paycheck? I don't think so. I haven't heard that. I mean, he made good money and his estate was over 80 million. The house was only under 4 million, which to me it looks like a lot more expensive property than that. But I guess Santa Fe isn't that expensive. So even a gargantuan mansion like that. Although I was looking at the real estate online and one of their neighbors has like a $20 million mansion right next to theirs or real close to theirs that's much, much bigger. It also looked like they owned the house right across the street that was just one digit different in the address. So it looked like they owned 1424 and 1425. And I'm not doxing them. It's all online, the name of the street and the numbers and all that. I found it quickly without even trying. I was just trying to get a picture. I was trying to figure out if they had a swimming pool or a hot tub because my guess is that they did. And swimming pools and hot tubs are high maintenance, but just housekeeping and most wealthy people like that have assistants to help them pay bills and keep up with things, run the errands. And maybe they didn't have personal assistants, but I can't imagine that they didn't have help with the housekeeping, especially if Betsy was devoting all of her time and energy to Jean. But where was he when she went running errands on the 11th? If he was unsupervised, then that says that he was fine to be unsupervised, which would then be contraindicated with the argument that maybe he didn't know she was passed away, that maybe he wasn't that far gone if he was able to stay home alone when she was running those errands. My goodness, I'm like 20 minutes behind. Let me catch up. Sadly, turns out we really don't know some people. Yes, isolating. My guy was doing that with me. Adios, MF. Yeah, they always do. That's always like their first line of fire. Annie, I just read your comment about Jack and Diane. That is so cute. Glad you got out of that situation. I know. I couldn't even go to the bathroom taking care of my mom. Exactly. It's like having a little baby. When you have a little baby and you can't really take a shower, but with my first child, I bought a completely clear shower curtain, and then I had her in the bouncy seat so I could like watch her while I was taking my shower. But you can't put a 95-year-old man in a bouncy seat. I mean, not to be dismissive, but you got to keep a sense of humor too. I mean, yeah. He wanted to take me on 30-day cruise. No, thank you, Jack. Come back. Wow. Yeah, Jack from Titanic. Yeah, the 30-day cruise. That sounds frightening, like what happened with Faster Pussycat's girlfriend. They say that they have videotape of her climbing over the railing and jumping off, but it's hard to say. And yeah, that guy Smith, what was his name? William Smith, the guy that like 25 years ago that was killed on his honeymoon. And did I say 25 years? I think it's 20 years. I think this summer is like the 20-year anniversary, and it's still unsolved. And yeah, I was talking about that last week. Let me see if I can come up with his name. Looking through my notes here. I don't know if it's further back, maybe. Okay. So Jessley Kessler is that handyman that discovered them. He said he was in constant contact with them, but then he hadn't had any contact with them for weeks, and that he'd been emailing her and that she wasn't responding, and he thought maybe that she was mad at him. So, but anyway, I was looking for the name of that man. Andrew Smith? No. Is that his name? Maybe it is Andrew Smith. It was 2005. It was a Royal Caribbean cruise. And I think he was Andrew Smith the fifth. So, yeah. Kimberly Birch is the girlfriend of the Faster Pussycat singer, Tame Down. And then Hackman is his best friend, who went on the record talking about it, saying that she jumped off, I say fell out of a cruise ship, like Andrew Smith fell out of a cruise ship. And it happens a lot. And then you're in that no man's land jurisdiction, just like when you're talking about the national parks, no man's land jurisdiction. Didn't know door was open. So, yeah, she could have fallen in the bathroom and bumped her head, right? But why was the dog in the crate? And then they say that one of the doors to the outside was open. And then there's reports that the house was really disgusting and dirty, but it's not real specific. It's like, was that the dust from the desert blowing around in there for a week or two? Or were there rats in the house? I mean, there's no reports of that, but it makes you wonder. Because if it's just dust everywhere, that's not like that disgusting, right? Gene's estate was owned by his former manager's family. What? That's crazy. Are you sure? Is this, I'll look into that and see what I find. Let's see. Where did it go? Gene was flat broke, but he couldn't have been flat broke in that big, beautiful house. As if staff was afraid paychecks would stop. I was on YouTube watching Gene's story. Well, a lot of them are artificial intelligence, and so they're not true. People make these channels that are completely artificial intelligence, and then, you just program it to tell the story. You feed it some facts, and then it just tells you this flowery story, and it can be entertaining, but it's fiction. So we got to be aware of that a lot of these true crime channels aren't really aren't real. They're just artificial. Certainly some red flags. I'm going to try to catch up. Title search showed he didn't own it. See, I was looking for that. I was looking for the property, and because it did show that the Hackmans owned 14, or is it 1424? I think was the address that they did own, that their names are definitely on that one. But I saw that their names were on the 1425 too. So, like I said, the address is really easy to find. So I don't want to be doxing their address, but I know that a lot of people want to sleuth it and look it up and see what you find. So it's like Old Something Trail is the name of the street. And yeah, 1424. and 1425. And it's Old Something Trail. I'll just leave it at that. And Hyde Park is the name of the neighborhood. So, huh. Let's see. Yeah. The math ain't math. And I was trying to do all the math with all the ages and stuff. And, it didn't add up. I think that they might have met when his kids were younger than 24, 22, and 19. Because again, it wouldn't make sense for him to say that anything about leaving his wife and kids. If they're 19, 22, and 24, then it's not like he's leaving them. It's just parents sometimes get divorced once the kids are all grown, right? So yeah, Granny Annie, this is the thing with all the information that I found. Sorry, I bumped the mic with my nail, and sometimes that makes a weird sound. All the information that I found on the Gene Hackman case, I've found so much contradicting information, contraindicatory. I can't speak, but it's just, I don't believe any of it because I find too many versions. Like the story that guy, Jesse, the handyman, tells, he changed his story. He changed his story dramatically, and it evolved dramatically. It's almost like once he told it to the police that they started rewriting it, I had his last name a second ago. Anyway, Jesse, the guy who said he wants to write a book. Like what would you be writing a book about? Like, that's, and like I said, when he said, oh, it was the worst day of my life, it's like, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the worst day of Gene and Betsy's lives too. Like, this isn't about you, dude. Sorry, not sorry. Come on. I mean, if you're going to do a welfare check on someone, you need to be prepared for that. And you probably shouldn't do a welfare check on someone without law enforcement. It sounded like when he tried to go into the gated community that the security guy went with him because, you don't let a handyman in without authorization from the people hiring him, even though he would have been familiar with, if he was working for them for 16 years. Okay. My neighbor, cruising friend, son is rich, took her cash and house, donate to a judge's campaign. Sherry was a YouTube channel, deep dived his address, only deceased former manager's family. Yeah, like I said, I've deep dived the addresses too, because I was bound and determined to try to figure out if they had a swimming pool or a hot tub, and I couldn't figure it out. I never got to the bottom of it, but I got a lot of other information. Like, there's more than one building on their property, which is normal. And did anybody else live on any of the other buildings? Because I've heard so many different accounts, like that maybe there was a cousin that lived next door or something like that. It could be my ex-guy's mom had Alzheimer's till 92. Brittany Murphy and her husband's deaths are very suspicious. And then her mom was creepy. Didn't it look like her mom and the husband, like they still lived together up until he passed away? And then again, that could have been something like her mom trying to get her inheritance, trying to get her daughter's money. I don't know. I don't know if her mother's still alive or not. But I think that Brittany Murphy, her mom, and her husband all lived in that house. And then they tried to say that it was like a black mold kind of thing. But then with this, the virus, the Hantra, am I saying it right? Hantra virus? That's not right. Anyway, the rat poop and pee virus, that maybe that was going on at Brittany's house. I don't know. Or maybe it was just said that it was black mold or hantavirus or something, but maybe it was something else. Like with Kim Porter, it was probably red rum, and he could still get charged with that. I think that that death certificate says natural causes on it, but that's probably being contested by her. They had 3 kids together, Kim Porter and Diddy. So, I mean, her kids have to be torn up over it, especially with all this crap going on with their dad. Had some deep dives. I wonder who in manager's family needed the cash. Right. Gene was always a financial wreck. Well, he seems like such a grounded guy, but yeah, people are not always what they seem. And I mean, maybe he had a drinking problem. Maybe Betsy had a drinking problem. Maybe they both did. I do not know. I'd say that in my experience, people that I knew living in Southern California that worked in the entertainment industry, every single one of them had an addiction problem. In my experience, every single one of them. Like, even there were a couple that didn't seem to, that were actually like advocates for sobriety, who it then turned out later that they did too. They had just changed their rugs of choice and then lied about it. They just hit it more better with their new rug of choice. It's hard for people that rich and famous to not fall into addiction, because it's lonely at the top, you know? And then if you're not living around other people that are kind of rich and famous too, then it's even lonelier. Sorry, I've got like a dry skin in the corner of my lip. It's bothering me. So yeah, my searching the properties, 1424 and 1425, it did have the Hackman's names on them, and it had the years that they purchased them too. So I'd go back and look at that, because again, I think there's a lot of misinformation and probably fake news, fake information. So I'm not feeling like I know anything for sure with Hackman and Betsy, other than the fact that she was 30 years younger than him and that she didn't seem to have any health issues, despite the fact that the doctor said that he was talked to her. I think it was a he doctor, it might have been a she doctor, but that they spoke with her, on the 12th, but that it was something about an appointment for Gene, like getting his heart checked or something. Maybe the cover up was trying to make public think he owned the house, pressure off the true owners. Well, I think that they did buy the properties when they first moved to Santa Fe, that they bought, I think, the 1424, and that then maybe the 1425 was like a new build. Again, I'm not sure, but they own, their names are on both of those properties, 1424 and 1425. And if you want the whole name of the street, I'll give it to you. Just email me at JusticeAtooZ@gmail.com. I just don't want to be like doxing them. Like I said, it's easy to find if you just type in their names with the 1424, 1425, it'll probably show right up. And if you have the name of the neighborhood, what was it? Hyde Park or something like that. And then it's like Old Something Trail. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are looking up the address and trying to get different questions answered. Like, again, for me, it was what I was looking for was, is there a swimming pool? Is there a hot tub? Pretty much everybody that wealthy has a swimming pool and a hot tub, but at least one or the other. And they are so much work. You almost have to have a staff or at least a person assigned for that. And then their property is like 6 acres, or one place said 12 acres. Again, you just can't trust the internet. But anyway, even if it's only 5 acres, that's still a lot to take care of if you want it to be manicured and nice, which, most people in a setup like that, they're going to want their property taken care of. I mean, things get bad really quickly if you don't have gardeners and grounds crew on hand. I saw a video from Shogun, but I didn't click on it because I don't like him. No, and he's one of those clickbait things. I used to watch him, but no, I can't. I can't do the clickbait crap. No, thank you. And I don't like Perez Hilton either. I agree. There's things about him that I don't like. So I'm with you. I watch him. Like, I liked him when I first discovered him, but yeah, he's kind of creepy. Like, he's just weird. When he was younger, he was a lot less creepy and weird. And he's very Hollywood. He's very like in your face, and he's very unrefined. And it doesn't seem like he gives misinformation. It seems like he'll discuss information and possibilities. So it's like, I like people that don't try to act like they know things that they don't know. So that's why I still watch him. Might have been JLR. And yeah, JLR, I like JLR. I know a lot of people don't. I think Jules of All Trades is always talking about how he does the misinformation. And a lot of these channels specifically do misinformation with the Idaho 4. So that's one that I know Jules of All Trades, because I watch her and she's just like, man, JLR is putting out incorrect, fake, false info. And I know that like Christina Randall has put out fake, false info. I know Nancy Grace has put out fake, false info, because they make their statement of what the truth is, and then they just use that as a platform and they jump from it and they run with it and they start talking about, well, he must have been thinking this and doing that. And it's like, really? Did you talk to him? Were you in his brain? I mean, they just go wild with it. Like they're so invested in him being guilty. And it could very well be that they're paid big money to portray him as guilty. That happens with YouTube. YouTubers get offered money from some of these cases to paint a certain picture. I think Harsh Reality even talked about that. But like with the Trump stuff, his people were in New York looking for smaller YouTube content creators, going to their houses and knocking on their doors and offering them 6 figures to do a video, allegedly. But if you took that money and did the video, like, no, like, that's, you don't work for the mob. Like, you just can't do it. Like, sure, it would be appealing, but they've got you by the balls. Like, they own your ass, and they may pay you and they may not pay you, but it's not going to be the end of it. Whatever it is, like, don't even think about it. But I know that a lot of content creators get offered money to present things a certain way. So, deep dive. Yeah, it's always interesting. I just call it sleuthing, just going nuts with the Google A, and and you find so much that you're not looking for, and it's fascinating. It's like an Easter egg hunt. You're finding all these nuggets, and then you're also finding information here that contradicts the information there. So you've got to keep an open mind, and even if you're finding all the same information that's not contradicting itself, it's still just on the internet. You don't know what's true and what's not true. Yes, I will email you the whole addresses, Granny Annie. Please email me the addresses, and my title officer friend will tell me. Yes, absolutely. No problem. I'll do that as soon as we're done here. So, Gene Hackman videos on YouTube. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't seem to me that there's a lot of people covering it. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just like putting out the information, like, oh, Pascal show is one that I like. And, just like, oh, here's this new information that the doctor spoke with Betsy on the 12th. So she didn't pass away on the 11th. But then, like, I saw Shogun's thumbnail and somebody else's where they were like, so the doctor spoke with Betsy after she passed away. It's like, really clickbait. And it's like, okay. Maybe it's entirely possible, right? You got to keep an open mind. Was he always broke is my question. I don't know if he was ever broke. I mean, he left Hollywood early on, and if he was broke, he could have done like Marlon Brando did and just done he could have taken small roles once in a while for big bucks, right? Like Brando wouldn't get off his island for less than $1 million, and he was the first person to fetch like $2 million for his 5-minute appearance in Superman, and then it was another like $5 million for 2 minutes in Apocalypse Now. And then he got off of his island to do Godfather because he wanted everyone to know that the country was run by that type of situation. And he thought that people didn't know and that they needed to know. So he got off of his island for that. But he didn't need the money. He just, you got to keep your money rolling in anyway, right? So I would think Hackman, since he got out of the business like around 91, around the time that him and Betsy got married, that he would have just taken a small role here and there if he was having any money trouble. So she owned a business in Santa Fe, like some kind of retail store with a co-owner, like a colleague or a friend. And I was going to try to do some more digging to see what type of store it was. We all probably are aware that she was a very talented piano player, but she was more than very talented. She played with the Honolulu Orchestra when she was 11, I think. Like, that's huge. That's like Kylie Rodney style prodigy, right? And I will send what I saw, keep folders. That's what Brittany's dad thinks. He thinks mom red rummed. Oh, isn't that so sick? And then, Brittany Murphy, there was the stuff with her and Ashton Kutcher and then Diddy. I mean, this whole thing is like a matrix of hell, right? How do you know Gene was broke? Annabees wants to know, Annie. I think they go with whoever is funding them. Hello, Miss Jazz and Justice Warriors. Hello, Miss Amir Zaza. Are you still in South Africa? Oh, could we send Elon back? Could we get our money back from him? Could we like do a return to sender? OMG. So yeah, the thing right now with our government shutdowns and the buyouts and the hacking and the chainsawing of all these departments. So right now, currently, they're doing all of that to the Department of Education. If they haven't finished, they've at least started. And it's very frightening. That woman that was hired to do that, the woman from the World Wrestling Federation, she knows nothing about education. And it's just really scary. I mean, if people aren't educated, it's just disgusting. Like, why would you want people to not be educated? Why would you want that? Okay, you guys, Granny Annie, you might want to brace yourself. I want to share with you. We're at 1.5 hours. Maybe I should make a different video about it. I don't know. Um, I have always been suspicious of the quote unquote assassination attempt that happened on July 13th. Over the weekend, I watched the video of it happening on slow motion. And I watched it really carefully and I took notes. And I had already thought that it was phony without doing that. And with doing that, it was like beyond phony. And I couldn't believe that I'd never done that before. It was so freaking staged, in my opinion. But one of the things that blew my mind, because, I've looked into Ivana Trump's passing away, which was July 14th, 2022. And this alleged assassination attempt happened the day before the 2-year anniversary of her suspicious passing. And I'm not buying it. So July 13th, 2024 was the alleged assassination attempt that looked phony AF from jump, in my opinion. And I've seen other content creators make videos about how ridiculously fake they thought it was too. And, I've just tried to not really worry about it one way or the other, because just like with my belief that the whole election was hijacked with Starlink and Putin and all that, PP, I mean, whether it was hijacked or not, what are we going to be able to do about it? So if that was a faked attempt, and I can't even say if, my conviction is so strong that it was faked, because why would he be going out golfing and going to basketball games and NASCAR races if that, if he really had a bullet almost take him out? I mean, the still shots of him swatting his ear, and when he comes down from the ear that is all covered with red stuff, but there's no red stuff on his hand. And our heads bleed profusely when they're cut. Heads bleed more than any other part of your body. So, the other thing is, the people around him weren't really responding the way you would if you were in a situation where there's bullets flying, in my opinion. And even the Secret Service, the whole thing was just nuts. He's all like, oh, I need my shoes. And then, the people around him are chanting and jumping up and down, and they're all excited. They're all smiling. They're all doing their fist thing. And yeah, I know the argument on the other side, but they weren't even in a hurry when they got him to the car. They weren't even hurrying to get him in, because he wanted to delay it to get more photo ops. That whole thing was so freaking staged. So freaking staged. I'll put a couple of links in the description to the two. One of them was 8 minutes long. One of them was 2 minutes long. The things that I was watching in slow motion. Very nearly assassinated. So they said that one was deceased. There were 8 pew-pews, and that 2 people were injured critically. One was deceased in addition to the alleged shooter. And then the one that they said was deceased was a firefighter. And then Donnie was making out with his freaking helmet on the stage one day. That was weird AF. So weird. But yeah, our freedom of speech is just really at risk right now, you guys. There's so much pushback. I'm so glad that I don't think I'm in the minority. When I'm on YouTube, I feel like I'm in the minority, because I think that it's just like X. it's kind of like ruled by the bots, and I don't think that it's as many supporters for that crap as people act like. And I know some are real, and like I said, Annie, if I'm offending you, I apologize for that, but this was something I really wanted to talk about. Let's see. Please keep him. We don't need him. Oh, I heard a really good joke this morning, which was, I wish that I were one of Elon's kids so I would never have to see him again. Funny, not funny, huh? They don't want anyone to be educated. Well, and the thing right now with the person, I think he was a professor that they deported from Columbia University. It's like Columbia University is like Yale or Stanford or Harvard. And it just makes me think that maybe Mr. T has a beef with them. Like maybe he applied there and didn't get in. Maybe his kids applied there and didn't get in. Maybe he couldn't buy his way in. I mean, he went to the business school of Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania, which is about as prestigious as you can get. But apparently he bought his way in, that strings were pulled, and he wasn't the amazing student that he claims he was. Take his pedo dad too. Oh my goodness, I know. One trashy jeans for sure. Do you guys know a Trevor Noah? He just roasts Trump every chance he gets. I love Trevor Noah. I haven't watched him in a long time. He's from South Africa, and he's like half black, half white. That's got to be rough. But yeah, he's genius. I was it took me a long time to warm up to him because he's got that accent. And then he was given that spot on the Daily Show when Jon Stewart retired. And I just thought it was weird to have this guy with an accent. But then once I started following him on YouTube, thanks for reminding me because I haven't watched him in a while. I believe the election was hijacked too, and I believe it was a fake assassination attempt. It looks very fake. Oh my goodness, the freaking still shots that I took are insane. And, there's a lot of people holding on to these like butterscotch colored scarves, and they're like waving them. I think there's about 5 of them in the audience right behind them. And it's almost like they're like little flags, like they're little signals. Like they're all the same color. It's so bizarre. I had never noticed that until I was watching it in slow motion. And I'm like, what gives, man? South African comedian, used to host the Daily Show. Yeah, Trevor Noah is great. He is really brilliant. He's really, really smart. And he had a rough life. I forget his story, but he talked about it very openly. And then I'm always fascinated with people who are willing to disclose that type of information publicly because it's hard. A lot of people can judge you for it. And to be able to do it appropriately, where you're not trying to like play the victim, you're just trying to let people know what you've been through, and especially in efforts to help others that have been through anything like it. So yeah, the election, I believe, was completely hijacked, and then that then there was like the second fake attempt, and then there was like the third fake attempt. Annabees, it was just like 2 weeks ago, they were acting like there was another attempt over the weekend. I think it was the weekend before last. And then it just like shriveled up and went away. It's just attention seeking. There's so much drama from that party, from that whole thing with the big E and the little T and the JD. Like they're just attention seeking whores, in my opinion. Like they can't go a day without being the center of attention, and just all these damn tweets. What was it? Like sometime this last week, little T put out 125 tweets in 6 hours. And then 25 of them roughly were in a 6-minute period. That's called mania. Like, why don't his handlers keep him on a shorter leash? Come on. I mean, I'm sure it's impossible. I'm sure he's impossible to control, but my goodness. I mean, he just gets away with so much. Like, he does all this crazy stuff. Elon does all this crazy stuff. Who the F sells freaking cars from the White House lawn? And what a desperate move. What an absolute desperate move. And it didn't work. It didn't help his buddy's stock go back up like he thought it would. It keeps getting worse. Like, I think, I don't know. I think they're going down. I think they're tanking themselves, and they're their own worst enemy. I sure hope. I mean, I still think that they're puppets of Pee-Pee, and that man is like Plankton from SpongeBob. He just wants to take over the universe. Like, that's all of them want. Like, they're just ridiculous, absolutely insane. We know Big E is an addict. He's kind of open about his rug use. And then we see him high as a kite, waving a freaking chainsaw around with little kids nearby and going, chainsaw! Like, because his brain can't think of anything else to say. No other vocabulary available. I mean, give me a freaking break. These people are ridiculous. It's a joke, but it's not funny. And then just all this like white supremacist stuff is just sick. So sickening. And yeah, going after the guy from Colombia, it's like, the guy is like legally in our country. I just found out right before coming on my live that his wife is like 8 months pregnant. And then her husband gets ripped away. And then that content creator that I like so much, Chris Norland, he's American. He was born in Vietnam. He was rescued in the Operation Baby Lift in 1975 when he was just a few months old. He lived his whole life in America. He's American. I don't even know if he has dual citizenship, but I think that he met his South Korean wife in America, and then they had to go back to South Korea because something happened with her visa. And this was before all of this stuff. But it seems like they probably were planning on coming back to the States, and that this is kind of dashing their dreams. So all of this stuff is hitting him really hard. He seemed like he was going to cry in one of his videos yesterday, talking about Columbia was one of the schools where he got one of his degrees, I think. Well, I know he got a degree from Brown. He got a degree from University of Pennsylvania. And, Musk, Big E, and Little T both went to the University of Pennsylvania too. And I guess the type of professor that Chris Norland is or was is history. So he knows a lot about politics and political science and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why he's so good. And he's just very down to earth. He doesn't try to do any like fancy pants holier than thou thing. He doesn't try to like talk over you like he's smarter than you because he's got these Ivy League doctoral degrees, and I don't know where he taught, but he's a brilliant man, and he's also just very straightforward and humble. That's the word that I'm looking for. I mean, where's the humility with Little T and Big E? I mean, these dudes are like unreal. They're just so freaking self-obsessed, and they think they're so much more important than they are. They think they're so much bigger than they are. And yeah, they're very powerful people, but they're still human, and that power can be taken away, especially when they're making such horrible choices. And Elon's fortune could well dry up. And it seems like it is. And it seems like that's the only reason that Little T had anything to do with him at all, was because he was in a financial bind and the Big E was bailing him out. And then the Big E is going broke. So then he's trying to sell cars from the freaking White House lawn. And then telling people it's like un-American to not buy a Tesla, and that it's like illegal to boycott. No, yeah, it's illegal to vandalize, but it's not illegal to boycott at all. That's insane. But I guess if we were turned into a communist state, like it seems like they're trying to, then they can make anything illegal, right? Expressing your opinion is illegal. Criticizing the people in positions of power is illegal. Like, that's sick and that's frightening. And if you can't take criticism, get real. I mean, that's just part of life. We're always going to be criticized by somebody, even if it's the people that love us and care about us, and they're going to be, you know, giving us feedback that, you know, sometimes it's hard to take feedback, even positive criticism, but you have to be able to do that. And especially if you're high profile, you have to just do your thing and not worry about what other people think. So, and if you know that what you're doing is what's right, you know that you're doing it for the right reasons, and you're open to people having their opinion, it's like, yeah, you know, you might not be popular, people might not like you, but you're doing what you have to do. I mean, it reminds me of when I did those 5150 evaluations, and usually when I had to do the evaluation, I would end up having to revoke somebody's civil rights for a 72-hour hold, and I was only responsible for that first 72 hours, and then whatever facility was holding them would usually extend it to a 14-day hold. And typically people getting their civil rights revoked like that are going to be very angry and rebellious and unhappy about it, but you know that you're doing it to keep them safe, to keep others safe, and to keep themselves safe. And I was usually able to convey that to people in such a way that by the time we were done with the process, they would actually thank me. And in the years that I did it, there was only like twice that the people were still angry with me at the end of the process. And one of those people I ran into in the grocery store a year later, and she came up to me to tell me how much she appreciated what I had done and that it saved her, and that she was sorry that she was so angry with me that night. And it's like, it's okay. I understand. You know, one of the things that I had to make peace with in that job was that somebody was going to be angry with me every time I did an evaluation. It was either going to be the patient or the person making the referral or a family member. Always guaranteed somebody was going to be angry with me, and they would usually come at me like if I said no, they can do something less restrictive, they have a safety plan and they're safe to go home with someone and call their therapist the next day or something. And then, you know, a doctor or somebody with the law would be really pissed off with me, and they'd think that they could just bully me into doing it their way. And I would just be like, look, you know, if I was making the wrong decision and they did something unsafe, that would be on me. But I mean, I felt like I always made the right decision. I had coworkers that I felt like made wrong decisions, and the cost was huge. You know, people that would not detain somebody because they were trying to like be nice, or maybe because they were being lazy, or maybe because they were getting bulldozed by a physician or something. But yeah, I mean, it's a life and death situation. If you've heard me talk about it before, one of the things I say is that there is no margin for error. There's jobs where you have very little margin for error, and then there's jobs where you have zero margin for error. And that was one of those jobs. So, you know, I went to work every day knowing that I was going to have to fight somebody, and that somebody was going to get pissed with me, and somebody was going to try to insult me or bully me or whatever. And I would just, you know, put on my gloves and say, sorry you feel that way. You know, there's nothing I can really do to help you. I'm here to do the job, and I'm doing my best. And if I make a wrong decision, I'm the one who has to live with it for the rest of my life. So I'm going to do everything I can to not make a wrong decision. So anyway, kind of went off on a tangent there. What were we talking about? We're talking about, well, and see, that's the thing is, it's like these people that I'm talking about in the freaking government, they need to be put on psychiatric danger to self and other holds, in my opinion. They are completely out of control. We know that they're mentally ill. You don't even have to have a degree to know that they're mentally ill, but they are a danger to themselves and others. And I don't know. I mean, it's like lawyers speak, where it's like you're just going to have to let them hang themselves, like, because there's not really much you can do if they're in these positions of power and they've got all of these minions around them propping them up. It's really disgusting. They have all these enablers, and most of the enablers, I think, are just doing it for money. You know, they're getting paid, and they'll enable anybody for anything. They're just like soulless. Like, they don't care. They don't care who they endanger. They don't care about anything. Like they're just blank. Like that Caroline Leavitt, man, she is the worst. She is the worst one. I mean, people who were in that job in the first administration, like Sean Spicer, and then that crazy woman, Sarah Huckabee. Ugh. I mean, they're just horrible liars, horrible at the job. And Caroline Leavitt is like the worst. I mean, she's angry, she's immature, she thinks she's all that in a bag of chips. I mean, she's just mean, she's just bitchy, and she thinks she can insult people into submission. She's nuts, man. And how long until they all fall apart? How long until little T gets sick of them all and fires them all, or they get sick of it and quit, or whatever? I mean, wasn't it, oh, what was her name? Jen Psaki? Wasn't she the one who did that job for the Biden administration? And then that really short African American with the wild hairdo. You're not supposed to talk about African Americans' hairdos. I forgot. Anyway, she was adorable, but you know, they were really good at it. Like, it's a tough job, but as long as you're being direct and honest, it's not that tough. But when you're lying, or when you don't know what's true and what's not true. Anyway, I'm going to put links in the description to those videos that I talked about watching in slow motion. I'll put a couple of links to videos of other people talking about their opinion, thinking that the attempt was faked. It really seemed like a sympathy, an attempt to gain sympathy, and it worked. You know, I mean, it's disgusting. And if it was real, like, wouldn't him and his kids and his wife, wouldn't they talk about it more? Wouldn't they act like they cared more? It's like a hot potato. Like, none of them will talk about it. It's just so artificial. And even like when it happened, and the words that he was in the middle of saying, what was it that he was saying? He literally was saying, I wrote down the quote, "If you really want to see something, take a look at what happened." And he's pointing to this big chart that he had put up of the economics of Biden. And it's very dramatic. It's kind of this violent zigzag, but he's literally in the middle of saying the word happened when he says, "If you really want to see something, take a look at what, my ear." And then, yeah. There's the weirdest guy with the long hair and the black top hat and a black blazer with a sign in his hand. He's got a yellow scarf in his pocket that matches those other yellow scarves that people have in their hands that they're waving. They're shaking their little yellow flag scarves. It's pretty wild. But that guy with his hat, and he looks so scruffy. He looks like a rug addict, honestly. But a lot of those people didn't even duck when the pops, the pew pews happened. And then the ones that did duck, they just got right back up. Like, no, if that happens, if there's like a spray of bullets, you're going to scatter. You're not going to just lay your head low and then come right back up. Like, that's insane. That is so effing crazy. That stable genius. That stable genius. Yeah. What else? I think we should wrap it up because it's probably been almost 2 hours. You know how much I love you guys and how happy I am to come on live. And I didn't get to come on for a live yesterday or the day before. When I first started doing this, I never took a day off. I did it weekend days as well as weekdays. And things get chaotic on the weekends. So a lot of weekends I want to do my lives or at least do a pre-recorded or something, but I can't. And I don't know how I'm going to handle that in the future because I really like to do this every day, but I'm also trying to go for quality, not quantity. So if I can't do it every day, I just try to chill out, cool my jets, take my notes and save it for the next time that I can. What about them removing Black, Latino, and women's names from the Arlington Cemetery? Thank you, Anna Bees. I didn't have that in my notes, but I did hear about that. Yeah. Really sick, really frightening, really gross. These people are straight up white supremacists, like neo. And it's not okay. And nobody's safe. Even if you're a white dude, you're not safe. I mean, it's just a matter of time until you're next. DTS, a good one. I read an article which his ex wrote how irresponsible he is. Oh, Marla Maples? Is that who wrote it? Because the other ex, if she wrote it, she's buried on his golf course up there in New Jersey. Is it called Bedminster or something like that? But yeah, Marla Maples. I love him. My kids are mixed race too. Hubby is Pakistani. Aww. So yeah, I'm sure you're talking about Trevor Noah. Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't there like a domestic violence thing with his mom and dad? Didn't his father unalive his mom or something? I have to look into it. I forget what it was. If I Google, let's see, if I Google Trevor Noah tragedy or trauma. Growing up with trauma. But yeah, it doesn't say right at the top of it what the. So he was very privileged. He grew up very privileged. And then he had ADHD and ODD. And so he remembers his trauma, but he doesn't hold on to the trauma. Dark upbringing. So he had an abusive stepfather. And I might say here real quick, and then I'll set this down and sign off. He grew up in apartheid, South Africa. He was illegal because he was biracial, so he was locked in the house. OMG, in Johannesburg. And his entire existence was a slap in the face to apartheid. So he wrote a biography. His parents' interracial marriage was illegal at the time of his birth and was only decriminalized a year later. But even decriminalizing it doesn't change people's mindsets. And then he says, my grandmother kept me locked in the house when I was staying with the family. If the police did show up, it was a constant game of hide and seek. People were encouraged to snitch. Wow. So he grew up with an abusive stepfather. All right. So his birth was basically a crime from the way that laws were back then. And his life was a living hell. And then, okay, so yeah, his mother was in the head by his stepdad. Oh, but she lived. The bullet missed her brain. Wow. And then he says, I think watching my mom and her growth post shooting, our family and the way we became stronger really became the example that I chose to live by. That's really what I've stuck to. And that's how I try to live my life every day. Wow. That is way cool. So that's great that she survived it. Please make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed, and if you're not, consider doing so. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring. Here's the thumb that fell to the ground. Hit that like button and bumpity bump. T is a loose cannon. Oh my goodness. He's just gross. And where's Melania Bot? Like, she's just disappeared. I don't think we've seen much of her since the inauguration. Personally, I was surprised she even showed up for the inauguration, but it's a good thing she had that wide brim hat to keep him from putting his lips on her face. Ew, gross. He says he doesn't know Lesotho, and the locals photo shooted him in their cultural attire and sang Bandage a TikTok. Okay. I'm not sure. You must be talking about, are you talking about T, or are you talking about Trevor Noah? He doesn't know, and the locals photo shooted him in their cultural attire and song Bandage a TikTok. So many people think they are cleaning up the government. They are against their own interests. The first term during COVID, all the misinformation was crazy. One guy was passing away and we were going to Fred Field. Hello, goodbye. We'll catch you on the replay. Yeah, I'm just wrapping up. So thanks for coming in and saying hi. And I don't know if you are able to finish your comment there, Anna Bees, because I know it only lets you have so many letters. So I don't know if you're able to write the rest of it, because I don't really know what you are trying to say, and if it's about the little T or what. But yeah, the big E and all of his freaking Doge government savings, and that's all fake. Like, they've inflated numbers, they've made things up, they've claimed things that just aren't true, things that are like years ago that were already canceled, and then they're like, oh look, we're gonna cancel that and save $8 billion or whatever. It's all freaking lies. And then they tried to like really get people to buy into it by saying, oh, we're gonna send everybody a check for $5,000. Doesn't that sound good? Anna B says, I finish it in my next comment. Yeah. And yeah, of course, getting a check for $5,000 sounds great to anybody, but I don't think that that's even remotely possible. I think they're just trying to get people to, they're just trying to win people over. And, any monies that they are finding, any like fraud or whatever, what have you, obviously they just want to save that money for themselves and then give Elon all these government contracts. Like, not only does he want to take over the space and the airspace, he wants to take over banking. Like, he wants to have his own X version of Visa. He basically wants to take over everything. He really wants to be Plankton. So whatever you do, don't let him see the recipe to the Krabby Patty, right? I mean, he's such a freaking dirtbag, and he can't even fly his freaking rocket to the moon, and he like won't stop talking about this fixation with Mars, which just makes him seem like a toddler. You know, just toddlers get hell bent on flying to Mars, and they're not going to have their dreams dashed with things like reality and logic. And sure, it's good to dream and it's good to have goals and it's good to push the limits, but within reason. I mean, to me, he's just an addict, and he's an escapist. Like, he just wants to go somewhere else. He wants to destroy this planet and then go on to destroy the next. But I don't know if he even really wants to live there, or if he just wants to like see if there's elements there that he can take from Mars. And if you do that, who knows what kind of havoc you can create. I finish it in my next comment. I'm not making sense of it, Annabise. Or if this is it. He was intubated all the while he was yelling at us, calling it a fake virus. He ended up passing. Okay, gotcha. Let me start over. So many people think they're cleaning up the government. They're against their own interests. The first term during COVID, all the misinformation, crazy. One guy was passing away, and we were going to he was intubated, and all the while yelling at us, calling it a fake virus. He ended up passing. It's so sad. I mean, I contracted the virus for like a day. Everybody in my family got it at some point. My younger son had what they call long COVID. That was really rough. It was like a year. And really, I don't know that he'll ever be 100%. I mean, he's just kind of chronic with stuff. And nobody that I knew passed away from it, but I know a lot of people who knew people that passed away from it. And it's really, really sad. But yeah, the thing that I really want to hit home about with the assassination, the alleged assassination attempt, is that it was the day before the 2-year anniversary of Ivana. And I believe that Ivana was red roped 100%, because it was like the night before they were starting this week-long depositions for Don Jr. and Ivanka. And those were the depositions about the financial fraud that he ended up, they canceled all the depositions because of the passing away of Ivana. And then they eventually rescheduled them. And then he eventually was found guilty on 34 counts in the New York courts. But, the problem with all these court orders is that he's defiant. He's not going to follow any of them. And I don't know what can be done unless people get real about the election being tainted, and then maybe, I don't know. It feels like a very dangerous time, but what's great is to see more and more grassroots organizations, people just speaking their truth and doing what they can. And like, even over the weekend, there were a lot more protests, and, peaceful protesting is the way to go. For anybody who's never been to a peaceful protest, I highly recommend it. I've only been to a few, but it's extremely rewarding, and it's just empowering. It's nice to be around like-minded people It's nice to have freedom of speech and freedom to assembly. So as long as we still have that freedom in this country, we better use it, or we're not going to have it much longer, in my opinion. That's my concern. All right, you guys. So peace out, love and light. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, sorry, I hit my mic again. I don't know if you heard it scratch. Like, I don't hear anything when I do that, but then I know when I check my video, I hear it. So sorry about that. It's all crazy. It's like up is down and nothing makes sense. Well, it's like they want us to think that nothing matters, and everything does matter, and we matter, and you matter, and the truth matters, and justice matters, and America matters. And just this whole thing with like hijacking what being an American means, what being a patriot means, when little T was calling Big E a patriot. It's like, no, he's not. That's like the furthest thing from the truth. Like, he's something completely not that. And even if he was that, that doesn't mean that you have to buy his stupid cars. Those cars are dangerous. So Anna B's, in my next video, maybe I'll talk more about Mitch McConnell's sister-in-law that passed away in a Tesla that went into the drink on, I don't know if it was her property or Mitch McConnell's property, one of their billionaire friends' properties in Texas. And the car went into reverse. When she was trying to do a 3-point turn, she ended up in the pond. And then she had her phone and she called her friends that were right there. And they were like right there trying to help her. And she was trying to break the window and she couldn't get out. And she drowned in that freaking car. And it's because it was a Tesla, because their windows are like, what's it called? They're sealed. They're bulletproof, but they have like a plastic seal over the glass to keep the glass in. So you can't break them. You can't get out. And then the car's locked down if it's in a fire or water, or even if the battery dies. And then it took the first responders like an hour to get her out of there. Unbelievable. So that was just a year ago. It was like, I think it was like a year ago. I think it was like March 10th of 2024. And the woman's name, it's almost like chaos. It's CHAO is how you spell her last name. And so she's Mitch McConnell's wife's sister. And that whole family that Mitch McConnell's wife is from, I think they're like Japanese and very prestigious. I think all three of the daughters, they all went to Harvard. And then she inherited the CEO position in their shipping business. And then she passed away. I think she was like 38 when she passed away in a Tesla. So everybody go buy your Teslas, right? I mean, they're horrible cars. They're very dangerous, and not to mention ugly. I've never liked them. And even when they were a status symbol, I still thought they were fugly. And now that they're like an opposite of a status symbol. Oh, this was interesting. In Chris Norland's most recent video, he said that people that are trying to sell their Teslas right now have been told that they have a zero market value and that they have a zero trade-in value. So, bummer. But, I mean, it's great that the Big E is getting his karma. He's getting served his rear end, and he deserves it. So good luck with that, Elon. You and your Teslers. Unbelievable. So peace out, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take really good care of yourself. Drink your water. Get some fresh air and sunshine. And then should I play another song on the way out? I was going to play one of the AJR songs. Should I play Bang or should I play the Daisy the Great record player song? Maybe I'll do the record player one because it's one of those songs that the first time I heard it, I thought it was a really old song. And this is with the cartoon.
Right now at AT&T, trade in your...
It's an animated video, but put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of Daisy the Great and this song Record Player that AJR performs with them. It's very cute.
I've got a record player that was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall. Just below my knees. I pretend I scraped them. Playing in the tree. I've got a record player that was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall. Just below my knees. I pretend I scraped them. Playing in the tree. I'm in the elevator. It's going down, down, down. I spent forever with my feet on the ground, but not now. Cause I don't wanna do the wrong thing. Guess I gotta go and get famous for doing nothing. Crack a smile, crack a smile. Stay a while, stay a while. Am I holding for applause? Is it gone? Is this on? I got a record player that was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall. Just below my knees. I pretend I scraped them. Climbing in the tree. I got a record player that was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall. Just below my knees. I pretend I scraped them. Climbing in the tree. I'm in the simulator. I'm doing okay. But every day it's just rewinding me, play. Not today. I'll head out to Monterey. Throw my phone into the waves. Can you see? My eyes, am I finally awake? Crack a smile, crack a smile. Stay a while, stay a while. I think the best is yet to come. So drink up.
There's the three brothers.
That was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall. Just below my knees. I pretend I scraped them. Climbing in the dark. That was made in 2014. Dyed my hair blue. It came out a C6
Such a fun song. And I forgot that all three brothers went to Columbia.
Sometimes I think all I'm ever doing is trying to convince myself I'm climbing in the trees.
Such a cute song. So all three brothers in AJR, Adam, Jack, and Ryan, they all went to Columbia. Only the oldest one graduated because the other ones got distracted by their musical careers. And the oldest one, Adam, he went on to get his doctorate degree, and then he is now teaching. I think he's in his first year of being a professor at Columbia. I forgot all about that. So yeah, it's a very cool school. Every time I think of Columbia, I think of Spider-Man, because that's where the spider bit Peter Parker. They went on their field trip with Kirsten Dunst was there, and his friend Harry, and then the spider bit him, and then the whole thing happened. So that was Columbia, when he's like going up the steps to the university to go into the science lab. Anyway, I've never been there, but I know it's a very, very cool school. And then it's the school where they took that professor and deported him. I don't know if he got deported or if I don't think they've returned him to his home. And I kind of doubt they will. They're not following any of the judge's orders. So anyway, we can't give in to the despair. We must keep on keeping on. And as much as I want to keep up with the news, sometimes I need to take a break and just focus on laughter and music and creating content. And thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here, you guys. Love and light. See you soon. Hopefully mañana. Take care. And thanks again.